Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money-colored commentator. On today's show, Roth conversion strategies, part 3 of our series on building a firm financial foundation for retirement with financial advisor Sean Humeston. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Thank you.
Roth conversions. Well, I think most people don't understand, it's not the Roth of the government. It's a senator named Roth back in the day who said we need to add on other savings vehicles. Now, first thing right out of the gate, before we get into too much Roth conversions, I'm into it. I don't want to pay any more taxes than I have to, but just a heads up, there's a little known piece of the code, and I know that you do this now. We can take, if you're married and you're over 55, you could take $7,550 from an IRA, which is generally taxable.
Correct.
And I can exchange that over to an HSA account, and as long as it's used for qualified medical expenses or insurance premiums that qualify, that's tax-free.
Tax-free.
So before I do Roth conversions, I want to take care of the tax-free issue first. Remember, if you're married, 55 and older, 75, 50, it's free money. Why not, right?
Why not?
Okay, so Senator Roth made this idea. Now, the people say, well, the negative is it's not deductible. That's true. It's not deductible. But it accumulates tax deferred. The money comes out.
Tax-free.
And does that number, because all these other qualified monies all count for Social Security taxation, does this count for it?
No.
No. So this is a big issue because all qualified plans are going to be ordinary income tax at the time of distribution, and they're going to flow over to the provisional income test for Social Security. So this could be a big play. I'm giving up the front end deduction. Now, I was looking at America's middle class. Our blended effective rate is like not even, it's about 20 at the max, blended. So if I'm getting 20%, I'm wondering if the deduction's worth it so that I could get it free. See, I'm always kind of going backwards. Should I do the traditional IRA? Should I do a regular IRA?
Yeah.
Or a Roth IRA. Now, people are sitting there saying, Steve, I got this big tax bill coming up. It's going to be a whopper. I got $1 million sitting in my 401k. If I could see that person, I know you like this too. I like to see people early, like right around that late 50s. If you give me 10 years to smooth and convert, I can actually make this work for you to move it from taxable to tax-free. Now, am I going to have to pay taxes on this conversion?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
can't avoid that.
So I can't avoid that. I'm trying to stay within the bracket I'm already in, because, we live in a marginal, progressive tax bracket. The more income we have, we keep bumping up to another bracket. I don't want a bracket bump by doing my conversion, so I have to do some time. I have to spread this over some time so that I'm paying the least amount of taxes for the conversion.
Yeah.
Tell me how you do this in your practice, and are people really excited about getting out from under this tax bill that they've had?
Most of them are. So the two things that we want to make sure we cover is the two biggest concerns, and that is, what do people think the tax rates are going to be in the future? Is it going to be lower or higher? So traditionally, we know that it's always going to be higher, and that tax rates generally don't go down. Would you agree?
I agree that the future really looks like that. Yep.
Yeah.
We got to pay a bill, $20 trillion in debt.
Now, the other thing is that most advisors usually want to do a conversion of that qualified IRA to the Roth in a very short window. We agree that we should actually do it a much longer process if we can, at least 5 to 10 years, to really get that tax deduction maximized and not go into that higher bracket. That is definitely true.
By the way, just think of what Sean just said. Not every advisor looks to amortize that event over a long period of time. They're trying to get it done in 2-3 years.
Yep. Almost
everyone that I've seen in my 35-year career, and especially since we started doing Roth conversions heavily, especially about 10, 12 years ago, everyone that's done 3 years or less, they were bracket bumped into not just one bracket, they went up 2 brackets to make the conversion, paid an excessive tax. The recovery time is so long, it doesn't have the mathematics to it. So it's important to what you just said is we have to see if we can spread this out. If you're thinking about trying to move into tax-free retirement, we need to see you sometime in that late 50s, somewhere in that vicinity. That, to me, would be huge.
Even early 60s. You can argue that between 60 and 70, if you don't necessarily need that money and you can convert that qualified money into a tax-free environment, more power to you.
Now, I noticed that there's limitations here. Let's do the limitations first. I can only put $5,500 into my Roth. Is there a catch-up provision for this? Could I actually dump another $1,000?
$6,500.
So
over the age of 50.
If I'm over the age of 50, I could actually do that. Okay, now I'm looking at this, and on the catch-up, when I'm doing the actual exchange from qualified plans to this Roth, whatever, if I'm going to make a difference here, I have to figure out that tax bracket that I'm in, make sure I don't bracket bump. And then as I'm making the conversion, am I keeping the same investments or am I looking at different investments on the conversion?
It's a good question. It's sometimes not always the case, meaning that you can always go back into the same investment strategy, but most favorably, there's going to be some arguments that you should actually look at some other strategies, some other investments with that conversion.
Well, I read a huge article by the Prudential, right, who said that the danger zone of retirement is that decade before you go and retire and the decade after. That 10-year period could be terrible for people. They have to really think about it. That's why we want to try to get people earlier, not later, because the shorter my timeline, the harder it is to maneuver. I don't have the same kind of flexibility. All right, so that's the first thing. What was the other thing you wanted to talk about on the Roth? You said the first part was you wanted to make sure, I brought up the income issue of, hey, should I stick with the same investments?
Right.
If I don't, most people are into mutual funds and ETFs, most of them. So what am I putting it in? I'm kind of close to retirement. I'm a little afraid to stay in the market.
So after you convert and now you're in a tax deferred / tax free environment, the question is do I want to protect this money or do I want to still put it at risk for growth? And that can be done in a mixture of things, obviously, some guaranteed positions, or you can still be hedging inflation with some growth, maybe a combination. But we would argue that that money should really start to be preserved and protected.
I would think that the vast majority, and I don't want to speak for my generation, but I think the vast majority of baby boomers are a little gun shy after 2008. I mean, we just got back to even about 2015, really got even, back to even. And so now we're thinking about punching out or retiring between 65 and 70. You know, I'm a little gun shy to go through. I don't know if I can afford. I don't know if I can afford to take another hit like 2008.
Yeah, there's a lot of concern there. Of course, we feel that the markets are at possibly their all-time highs. So, you know, taking off some of that stuff off the table, does that make sense? You know, and so that's part of the reason that we have that conversation with those.
Okay, clients. So I want to convert Roth without putting myself in another bracket if I can. That's my goal. I want to try to convert as much as I can before I take constructive receipt of my retirement. I may have to think about moving away from mutual funds and ETFs to a more conservative posture, right?
Correct.
And that means that some of these people are going to have, and I think is a great idea, you need to do a risk tolerance test. You need to find out, hey, where are you at? And if people have any bit of concern, or they're on the bubble, they need to start moving to more conservative posturing. Now, I still have money, just so our listeners know, I still have money in the market, but a lot of it's been converted now. I'm way past that stage, so I have a good chunk in it, but my majority is not. It's in conservative. It's sitting on the sidelines waiting to annuitize or to see what my expenses are going to be when I turn 70.
Yeah.
Now, you deal with a lot of people that retire. You're right on the edge of being a millennial, right? Aren't you? Like, so you're not really a Gen X or Yer. So you're looking to your clients are predominantly older. You know, they think they could be your dad, right?
Right.
Okay, so tell me, how do they look to you? How do they get in front of you? You have so many clients that are baby boomers, and you attracted these people. Are these some of the tactics that attract your clients?
Oh, sure. You're talking about Roth conversions.
Yeah, conversions, sure.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge button for a lot of people, and that generally it seems like every time we come in for a consultation, somebody that I don't know that I've met for the first time, the question usually comes up: should I convert my traditional IRAs, 401ks, etc.? So that's usually a really big topic.
Now, if I want to convert, I'm not under the same. When I have Roth IRA, I may not qualify to put out so much money. Remember, it's means tested. So if I'm making a lot of money, my AGA is high. I can't do that. But if I'm just rolling it over, do those rules apply to the rollover?
No.
All right, so I'm good with that. I can look at that.
Yeah, you can transfer as much over as you want. Of course, you're going to be taxed on that distribution.
Right.
So you want to sometimes, like we had mentioned before, phase it out over several years, right? Keep that flow going. And for some, it doesn't work. It just flat out doesn't work. But for a lot, it does. Okay,
and that's one thing I really like about you, Sean. If it doesn't work, we're not going to try to force a square peg in a round hole. It's just not going to happen. So we want to make sure that there's always, and as I've said on the show 100 times, math and science makes the call. So if the math is there, the actual science is there, I'm all over it. So I want to, again, Roth conversions. If you're sitting there saying, Steve, I'd like to prep now my retirement for tax-free living. I love the idea of moving this to Roth and not paying Social Security taxes because of it. I think that's huge. Listen, don't forget to watch our next segment on active money management with ETFs, part 4 of our series on building a firm financial foundation for retirement. And keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, or financial advisor. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game.